and welcome back to the Champagne series on BrightIAM. I'm Lucy Black and I am joined here today by a beautiful powerhouse woman, the wonderful Sarah Bennett-Nash. Hello.
Hello, hello. I'm excited to be here.
It's so lovely. So, I mean, to tell the story really of how we met and collecting the story of you and who you are, because you are quite exceptional, Sarah. I'm a little bit of a fangirl. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. Perhaps just first of all, if you could introduce who you are and tell us a little bit about the Icon Lounge, etc., that'd be great.
Yeah, so Sarah Bennett-Nash, I am an author, which is still trying to get into the zone of that because I'm a new author, More Money, More Life, which has just been the most phenomenal journey ever, writing and publishing a book. And we host the Icon Lounge. So we're based in King's Cross and we have an incredible group of guests that come on to discuss all women in business, to discuss capital, we discuss visibility, and we discuss life in general, like how it all weaves together.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I do know all about your book because I've got it here. Okay. And I was very lucky to meet you at the, I think it's the Bold Women Conference, wasn't it,
Yeah,
up
that's
in
right.
London? And you were a panelist, you were one of the speakers on the day, and I was in the audience. And actually, what really struck me was how clear your message can be delivered on a stage, and actually talking about your background in finance and banking and how the narrative around finance led you to create this book. Now, I've read most of it. I haven't actually finished it, and I had it to do to finish before I come on. But this is life-changing.
Oh, thank you.
But it really is. And I've been talking about your book, Sarah. I've been telling everybody about it because we hold, as you say in the book, these narratives and beliefs around money that affect our behaviors, and they play out in our finances, and they don't need to. So my background's in psychology, forensic psychology, business development, PR, etc. But I kind of felt that I should have known this before, and
Mm.
it's not an area I've ever explored. So, with your background, perhaps just give us a little overview of where you started and how you've come to be where you are today.
Yeah, I do have pinch me moments when I talk about my career because I really kicked off my career in New York at Goldman on the 50th floor of downtown
Wow.
Water Street. And it was one of those days where the sun was setting over the Statue of Liberty. And I just remember pausing on the trading floor amongst all this chaos, thinking, how does a girl from Yorkshire land here? It was just one of those life-changing moments where I realized that you can pretty much do anything when you put your mind to it. And for me, I was in a real crunch point because I wanted to stay in the States. I'd moved to the other side of the pond for love, and it was a bit bumpy,
Mm.
that journey. But the great thing about it was the start of my career. And that was how I sort of got into banking,
Right.
really. And then it grew 20 years. I just can't believe how quick 20 years went by. I did various different roles. But what I loved about that role, being in banking, was that I learned so much about people. And I used all of that to bring the book together because you clearly get a very good technical knowledge of money and how it works. You get the macroeconomics piece when you work in banking, which is just so incredible. But then what I was seeing in terms of how it was playing out was all of surrounded by a lot of women, but the women particularly were still living paycheck to paycheck.
Okay.
So why is it that a group of women who are incredibly successful in their careers, many of them earning a lot of money, still are living paycheck to paycheck? And so when I got into the weaves, reads of this and really started researching it, it really started to hit me that the psychology of money and the awareness of that, your family lineage, how that's impacted you is so fundamental to how you think and act and do with money.
Mm.
And obviously, that has such a huge impact on how you live your life.
Yeah.
And that realization was just life changing for me. So, what I wanted to do when I left banking was to crunch that all together, to bring together some of the technical aspects of money, really bring it into layman's language, because I think in that environment it's really overcomplicated unnecessarily so.
Okay.
To bring it into a very simple zone and then add this lovely overlay of actually psychology, which is for me probably the most important bit of all of it.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think that the more we do that introspection into ourselves, our behaviors, our actions, what I particularly like about your book is the narrative of you throughout it. So your voice and your style of writing is really nice. It's really
Oh,
good,
thank you.
sincerely. If it wasn't true, I'd just skim over it and not say it. I've really felt like I've been immersed in your story, in your beliefs, in your world, but also offered all the frameworks for sorting out my own.
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
very
Love
much
that.
so. Really is. So I think that your life experience and being in that corporate environment, did you find that it got to a point where it was enough? You'd had enough being stuck in that kind of world?
Had been thinking about plan B. And I don't know about you, but I used to go out with friends and obsess on plan B. And there was always a plan B.
Mm,
And that had been the case for a number of years, honestly. So I'd been thinking, how do I do life bigger? And I think it got to a point after having my girls where trying to manage a big career plus the family dynamic, plus being the breadwinner, plus everything else
yeah.
just felt so overwhelming to me. And the plan B became the plan A. And I really started to think a lot more seriously around that, putting the structure in there. And so I don't think it was ever a real big bang moment.
Sure.
It slowly crept up on me until I went, this has got to change.
Yeah, you can't carry on with it because
Mm,
this is something that we've had come up on this conversation on the Champagne series for time and time again is how much can we do and can we have it all? And if so, at what cost?
mm,
And I think that as women in these leadership roles, in really high corporate positions and in business and in life, there is a juggle and you can't do it all perfectly all the time. So, what is it that's got to get put down for you to be able to see to all the rest of it? And your daughters, how
mm.
old are your children, Sarah?
So they are now 6 and 9.
6 and 9, so still
Yeah,
quite young
yeah.
actually. That's still quite a nice young age.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I mean priorities and actually taking everything you've learned and kind of being nudged to really go big. So plan B becoming plan A and actually sharing your learnings of the world and your passions. And actually the other thing I find with you as well is you speak so eloquently on leadership, on pivoting in careers, on all of these things that are important to women in change. And we need those voices more.
I totally agree with
Mm.
that. A lot more visibility. If you look at the podcasting industry, there is a minority of women out speaking, particularly in the business segment. And it's so fundamentally important that we see the role models, that we see people visible. And it was always like this in my career. I was always looking for the person who had done it before, who I
Mm,
could learn from. And I craved that. And it's no different really in the entrepreneurial world. We get less than 2% of the funding here in the UK. And the podcasting industry, we are in a huge minority in terms of the voice. And so I'm on a real mission to help try and change that and encourage women who really have big ambitions in life to just step into that. And it does take a bit of bravery. Sort of takes you into a different zone. I think at the start it can feel really uncomfortable, but then you find your niche, you find
mhm.
your groove. And I think it has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my entire life. And when I speak to my girls around my career, I stand really proud next to that, and that hasn't always been the case. I've remember going to parties and dinner parties, and particularly in 2008, the cringeworthy moments when people ask, "So what do you do?" And
Mhm.
banking was really dirty. It was a dirty word in
Okay.
2008 after the crisis. And I used to get really quite anxious about having those discussions.
Okay.
Um, there's a lot of bank bailouts, and whilst the organisation that I worked for at the time wasn't part of that, it was, people were really, really resentful that their taxpayers' money had gone into that. But I think now I have used my knowledge in such a positive way, and now out road showing the book and talking a lot more to people about their challenges around money has been really humbling. And you can see the positive impact you can have really quickly.
And I think also just getting it down into a printed book. Like, I mean, I'm constantly on my phone. I'm doing a lot on socials. I do my emails on my phone. I'm taking pictures. But there is something so beautiful about putting anything digital down and picking up something that has been crafted by somebody and taking it in your hand, reading it where you go. And also, kind of, I feel like with your book as well, it gives you thinking points, a bit like therapy. It
Mm.
reminds me a little bit of therapy, Sarah, seriously, where you'll have your session. So you'll read your chapter. Then you'll go off about your day, you'll be driving along, and you'll start reflecting on your own behaviorisms around that particular point. It's actually, I think you're changing lives with what you've
Oh,
done.
thank you.
Yeah. And how is it going with the rollout for it? Because I know you were just about to launch when we met earlier this year. How's that been? You've been to book signings and all sorts. I've seen you everywhere.
It has been absolutely mind blowing,
Mm,
because you pour so much into a book, you pour your life into it for a couple of years in my case,
yeah.
and you pick it up and you read the chapters, and you wouldn't think there'd be 2 years of my life in that book. But when so much passion and love goes into it, and the relationships that you build with your publishers and the editors and the people that you work with, again, a really humbling experience, because they're just so phenomenal at what they do.
Okay.
And through that, you're improving constantly the writing. Like, actually went back and rewrote the first part of the book after I got to the end, because I was such a better writer,
Okay.
that I wanted to go back and stand proud by the first bit. So you definitely do improve. And, I'm in my mid 40s now. And it's just proof that you can do things later in life that are challenging. I've wanted to write a book for such a long time. And just seeing it come to life has just been the most phenomenal thing ever. So I've been on, as you say, the road shows for the book, and we have just gone to so many different bookstores now, met so many different people in various stages of their financial journey. And the stories that have been told are just really overwhelming and some
Okay.
really emotional.
So in this like group collective sense, people are saying, this is me, this is my story with finances.
Mm,
Oh, how interesting. So it's
yeah,
opening up conversations in real
massively.
time.
I think in the UK, and stop me if you think I'm wrong here, but
Mm,
I think we struggle to talk about money.
100%.
Unless you work in an organisation like the NHS, where you know the band you're in and what you get
Yes.
paid and how you're benchmarked against people, you won't really know how and what people are earning around money. And so it becomes this real secretive,
Mm,
sensitive topic. And when I first started talking to my girlfriends about this, you find that some people are really secretive around it, and some people are massively open about it. And the people, I think, that are more open about it can bring more into their lives, because it just having those enriching conversations lead to the next story, the next open door, the next opportunity. And we all have challenges around money, I think, at some point as well.
absolutely.
And so not being too closed off about that, as I have been in my life. And I tell a story in the book about my dad, which is obviously where I've picked up some of my money scripts from.
Yep.
And we had this moment where my sister and I walked into his house after he'd had this huge heart attack, and we just couldn't open the door because of the amount of post that was at the back of the door, his front door. And it was just this really sad moment going through that, just knowing that there'd been so much pressure on him that he couldn't talk about it.
Yes.
And that is just something I would never want anybody to go through. And so by opening up the dialogue around money, I think it's healthy. I think that it can lead to much better outcomes in terms of people's personal finances. And actually, you can start to then play around a little bit around money when you get to a stage where you can start thinking about investing and doing some cool stuff with your money. That's really exciting.
Mm.
And so it's great to be around a group of people that can also get involved in those conversations and talk about that too.
And empowering. It's so empowering, I think, for a woman to run with that narrative of talking about their finances, their
Mm,
independent finances. I was really blessed actually last week. I had a strategy session. I can't hardly say strategy. I always get that one wrong. And I've got a friend who was the chief financial officer of a massive telecommunications company. She's retired. She's left now. And another friend who's very, very high up, a physiotherapist. And we got together because my life is bonkers. I mean, you're probably catching on a little bit. I'm doing a bit of that there, I'm doing a bit of that there, but I am so passionate about being successful, getting myself out there, raising other people's voices. But my head has been in the sand about my finances.
mm,
And I think that the first little peep in that door creaking open was meeting you, getting this book, and then starting to understand what I'm doing with my finances and where that behavior comes from. And then laying it all out with my wonderful women friends last week, albeit totes emotion. I
mm.
did get very emotional, and I'm not a crying type of person, but I was having a proper boo up by the end of that
Yeah.
session. Looking forward to everything that I plan to do, how I can do it, building the strategy around all my business models, etc. But also opening up my personal and business accounts. Felt very vulnerable, even with these people who are close to my heart. And it's there that I think women, or I'm speaking for myself, carry an element of shame around money and not being in
Mm.
control of it. But also, there's the educational piece that nobody's ever shown me how.
Yes.
So it's that forgiveness as well. It's like, hey, that's okay. No one's shown you. It's never too late to learn.
Mm.
And I think that people can build and work with your frameworks, with your ideas and overlays there of how they can take control of their
Oh,
finances.
I love that, Lucy.
It's entirely life changing. I feel like I am on this personal journey with
Mm.
my finances, and thank goodness I am. Because I think if we don't capture it, especially being an entrepreneurial person and spending money on business as well as life, it can be the pivot point that actually sends you off course.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And building awareness around it is really the first stage of it, is just being very conscious around how you're using your money as a force, because it
Yes.
is one of the things that drives us through life. I think becoming aware of that then means that you become a little bit more ruthless where you need to be
Yeah.
around money and actually challenge some things that you probably hadn't done before. And I love that story. Thank you for sharing that,
Yeah.
because I think that is one of the most common pieces of feedback that I get around the book, is that it has opened up new avenues for people to have these discussions around money. And once you realize you're not alone,
Yes.
and being vulnerable with people then enables them to start talking about it too. And that collective, I think, is really fundamentally important, because I hear so many stories of women, particularly, handing over authority of their finances to their partners.
Mm-hmm.
And that pains me, because once you lose sight of it, as you said earlier, you lose control of it.
Complete.
And, you know, we can't always paint a rosy picture. Like, relationships end, they change, disasters happen. And it's just about being aware of those incidences can happen and preparing yourself a
Mm.
little bit around it. So, having money dates with your partner, being as open as you possibly can around money. And that's been a very interesting conversation, actually. But just to understand where you both are with money, I think is so fundamentally important, because, again, when relationships break down, one of the biggest pressures on a relationship is money.
Absolutely. And I know that firsthand. So I was in a marriage that had coercive control
Mm,
for many years. And there was a lot of financial control within that. I mean, the house was completely in my husband's name. my car, even my phone, everything. And I had no idea on that picture.
Mm.
And the narrative that I received from my ex-husband was that, oh, you're no good with money. You're not to be trusted with that knowledge. So you carry that and that plays out. And actually, when it did all come to a head and the separation and ongoing divorce, financial settlement, etc., was on, I was so many steps behind because I didn't even know. I couldn't even see what was there, what we had. And then obviously the battle begins, which is,
Mm.
often the case. But I think that women, particularly younger women, could really do with reading this book because then they are equipped with their own narrative and their understanding and their empowerment around money before they get into the relationship. There are a lot of people, I won't just say men, but there are people who can be particularly controlling
Mhm.
around finances and other aspects of your life. And I think that if you're kind of clued up on all of this before you enter that relationship, you're 10 steps ahead. And I would also like to say, before I move on to my questions, this isn't just a book, this is a movement.
Oh, I love that.
This is a movement. You've started something here. There is a ripple in our worlds, women's worlds. This is very important work. So I honestly congratulate you
Oh, thank
wholeheartedly.
you.
Yeah. And anything I can do to illuminate you, your message, and this wonderful book, and I'm going to put it up to the camera again. More money, more life. More money, more life. We'll take it all. Yes, please. I'll have 10 of them. Thank you very much. So just before I ask you our questions, so I always do the same three questions on this podcast for our beautiful, beautiful women leader guests. I just wanted to highlight that we are here sipping the wonderful Everflight Vineyard wine today. They've just won a gold award and they're the very
Amazing.
kind sponsors of this series. So if you're comfortable, I'm going to ask you three questions.
Exciting.
Um, what is a truth, Sarah, about your life that most people would never guess?
I'm definitely a swan, I would say.
Okay.
I often look like I've got it all together, but holy moly, there's a lot going on,
Is that with these,
complexity inside.
are these those little swan feet that go along? Yeah, yeah.
I love how I've elevated myself to a swan and not a duck.
Yes.
Yes, but I think there are definitely days where I really have not got my schnizzle together,
Yeah,
and it's life, isn't it?
yeah,
But I always try my hardest to keep stuff together because it's just like as soon as you have that meltdown, it's like everything, that takes time to have a
yeah.
meltdown, and I don't have time to waste for the moment.
That sounds just like me. I've got 100 things to do. I have not got time for that to go wrong and have that out. Yeah, quite right, quite right.
Oh
And I
dear.
love that you're the swan. I know exactly what you mean with your feet paddling away. And I find that being a woman, you have all these different elements and levels of tasks and of self. And you've got that mother role, but you've also got the Sarah role as well. So you're the author, you're the ex-banker, you're the woman leader, you're the entrepreneur, you're a wife as well, I think. Yeah, you're
Yes.
a wife and you're a mother. You've probably got you're probably a sister to someone, you're all of these different roles. But I think it's also so important that we remember who we are,
Mm.
just solely Sarah. And sometimes sometimes if you don't feed into that, who you are and just sitting with you and doing what the hell you want to do, even if it's just for half an hour, the rest can shift and feel more complicated. So
Mm.
yeah, you're a lovely swan, darling.
Oh, thank
You're
you.
swanning sensationally. And then my second question, where did you abandon yourself in your journey? And how did you come back?
Oh, that is such a great question. I think I've abandoned myself a lot along the way. I've really worked on my self-awareness, and I think I do have a history of being a bit of a workaholic,
Yep.
and I've always got a point to prove to myself, so I'm always striving for that bigger thing. And when you live a life like that, you definitely lose yourself in that.
Mm.
And particularly when I was in corporate, I think I was guilty of that quite a few times. And then something will happen that will just snap you out of it. And then that's the time when you just go, right, okay, I've got to bring this back. I'm really good at meditating and I do a lot of visualization. That's really critical to me. And so That's something I just protect like it's a sacred space every single day.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, I think, there's tons of research around this, but I think that alleviates a lot of stress. It helps you visualize what the future looks like and who you want to be and your place in the world. And that's just been mind blowing for me. And then I think there's other areas where I definitely need to be better. Like, there's so many things I love. I'm so passionate about reading. I don't get enough time to, read. I listen to a lot of podcasts,
Yeah.
but I haven't played tennis in months.
And that's probably some kind of way you can get something out with that tennis, that physical
Yeah,
activity. Yes,
exactly.
yeah.
Very high adrenaline in pretty much
Mm,
anything I do in life. So bringing it back to that is like a good thing. But yeah, I do miss just the simple things like tennis and all
yeah.
of that kind of stuff. But, I think it's all balance, isn't it? And there are
Yeah.
chapters of your life where you have to double down on certain things.
Yep.
And when you're building something, as we are,
Mm.
it does become a big focus. You just got to be aware not to be too obsessed with it because it sort of drags you in a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, and can break you as
Mm,
well. We've spoken a little bit before about burnout, and I know so many wonderful, successful women who have burnt out.
mm,
And what I really like is your reflection there, Sarah, that you hold that sacred space as a priority.
mm,
Because we are also, I believe, as women, very guilty about giving up everything that we want and need for the benefit of others, whether that's for business, for life, for family, for children. So I love that. And I know a lot of the people I really love and admire meditate.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And I think that that's perhaps why they feel so clear and balanced and light to
Mm.
me. Something I should maybe bring into my life.
I think you've got such a positive aspect on life that if you bring that into your meditation, it just enables you to build quicker.
Mm,
And building that, I think, then has a positive impact on the communities around you as
yeah.
well. You see, there's so much research on this. So, basketball players, you can put them in a room with their team doing these types of exercises, visualizing, doing the drills. They don't even have to be on a basketball court. And they're much more successful than the people that don't do that.
Okay.
So there's been great Harvard studies around this. And I think it's just so illuminating for me, um, through corporate, particularly how stressful life can be.
Yes.
You just have to create these spaces for yourself. I also have reminders in my phone as well, and it just sounds bonkers, but at 10 o'clock every day, I have a 15-minute reminder. So it's timed in my diary. So it's my time to breathe. And that sounds bonkers.
Okay.
However, when you've done a school run, you've bolted to wherever you've needed to be, you've got settled into the thing. Actually, you've realized that probably most of what you've been doing is from here and
Mm.
actually not breathing from where you should breathe from, which is your diaphragm. And actually, that builds a lot of stress. Cortisol builds as a result of that. So just bringing
Okay.
that into your day and setting those timers throughout the day is, I think, really disciplined. I'm not so good at that, but I do have these points in my day where I just stop and reflect because otherwise I think you get to the end of the week and you think, where's the week gone?
Yeah.
Like, what have
How's
I
it
actually
gone?
done?
One
Mm.
thing after another. And that's really, really interesting. Probably a fantastic piece of advice for people listening to this broadcast. Hold in that, even at 10 a.m., you've got up, you've got yourself ready, you've thought about your day, you've stressed out about the email that's not come through, you've checked your emails, checked your socials. The dog's, well, I mean, before I was leaving the house today, the dog's trying to hump my shoe as I'm trying to put it on. And I'm just thinking, I've got to get in the car. How's the traffic? So having that time to go,
Yeah,
that's
totally.
so important. I love
Mm.
that. Oh, I'm going to be on, should be taking notes, Sarah. I'll have to watch it back and write them down, won't I? And then finally, my question here, number 3, is if there is a woman watching this and she's feeling stuck in her journey for somewhere perhaps you once were, what does she need to hear? Not necessarily what does she want to hear or the nicest way to put it.
What does she need to hear? I think pause.
Mm,
And I'm terrible at this because there's a lot of power in action and you can see and feel and stuff gets done and it feels good. but there's a lot of power in the pause. So when you can just stop, slow down, meditate, I think is a great tool for this. I think that is incredibly helpful when you're feeling those moments of stress,
Yeah.
particularly, or you're feeling a bit of pressure with your finances. And what happens is that you can get into a scramble. So it takes you then off on the wrong path.
Like a
But
reactiveness. You get reactive.
totally.
Mm.
Yeah, totally. And before you know it, weeks have gone by and you're on totally the wrong path.
Yeah.
And you haven't even stopped to check that. That's classic, I think, for a lot of people, entrepreneurs who are really keen on building something. So having people around you, mentors, coaches, whatever that looks like for you, I think is so fundamentally important
Absolutely.
because particularly in entrepreneurship, it can be really lonely. You can
Yes.
spend a lot of time on your own, even if you're in, co-working spaces, you still got your head down and you're
Mm.
still in building mode. And by socializing, by talking about these things, not rushing into things with your hair on fire, I think it just gives you the space to think properly, think through the options, and not make those catastrophic mistakes, which can really hold you back quite a lot.
I love that so much. And reflecting on my last 12 years of being in my business, that is such good advice because I've been one thing to the next, doing that, doing that. Whereas actually with my friends from last week, and that's the first type of mentorship I've had. I've been
Mm,
trying to find a mentor because we speak a lot about having those people who are a few steps ahead of you, looking up towards them, working with them, but also lifting those that are coming up behind. Very important ethos of how I want to live and how I work. But last week was very much that first time I could be in a space vulnerably with mentors who can
mm.
say, honey, what are you doing there? That's costing you money. It's taking your time. Scrap it. And I was like, oh, because I have so many ideas, typical entrepreneur. I've got
Yeah.
this, I want that, doing, da. And they're like, put that sparkly object down. And although they're encouraging me to take different paths and look at different options, I won't be taking all of their advice because I am again a very different thinker to them. So they're
Mm,
very corporate and they've not done the entrepreneurial side. But I will push back and pause because actually, if I don't properly study everything that's there in front of me and my options for my next steps and where I'm going to spend this money that I'm saving from not spending it there,
mm.
then that reactivity will, like you say, send me down the wrong path. And then we're back at square one again.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I love that.
I did an exercise with a client a couple of weeks ago, and there was a lot of overwhelm happening there, a lot of pressure for the numbers. We all know this journey, right? Where we're getting to the end of the month and it's looking like, "Whew, okay, we've got to make this work." And so the panic was starting to set in a little bit. So bringing things back down to a manageable level, and all we did was put her time into a pyramid. And
Mm,
it was, where are you going to optimize revenue for time? And then let's just deprioritize all of the stuff that is taking up your time but not bringing in revenue.
okay.
And let's focus on the 1 or 2% of stuff which is going to build your revenue and is really valuable use of your time. And that sounds like such a simple thing to do, but
Mm.
she was in such a state of overwhelm that she couldn't get to that at that moment.
Yes, you couldn't see it because there's so much spinning around
So
and
much
so many
noise.
people pulling your cords as well, wanting something from you and in an email
Mm,
to answer. And you're right. It's like spend your time where the money comes back in. And that's so obvious, but it's not when you're in that cloud of
totally.
business and life.
Totally. I think there's a lot of societal pressures as well, isn't there? We've got to
Yeah.
respond to the WhatsApp group within 30 seconds, or, you've got to have organized your children's lives for the next 6 months. I mean, when you've got a lot going on, it is really overwhelming. And I think much of it is quietening the outside noise, reclaiming a bit of your own space, as you say. I think
Yes.
that's really valuable.
Mm.
But I think talking to people as well and just being able to put logical sense behind the things that you're trying to achieve. and just quietening down a lot of that noise, which just can run around your head and really drive you, slightly crazy, can't it,
Yeah,
at
and it can
times?
be too much because it can be
Mm.
even when you're driving or your first thoughts when you get up in the morning. And just reflecting is something I wanted to mention, so I've just remembered, and I'm so pleased I have. You speak a lot in your book about understanding and knowing your worth around money, right? So these past 12 months, I've had meetings with all different people talking about different projects, proposals. They're like, oh, could I ask you some questions? I'm doing this thing. So I'll get in my car and I'll drive down and I'll pay for parking and I'll often buy coffee or lunch and we'll talk. And then after our talk meeting, maybe an hour and a half, I'll go home, I'll set it all out, proposal, this is what I recommend. Right.
Mm.
And that's happened. I mean, I've had a few people buy after and I've worked and I've managed some lovely partnerships. But I would say we're talking over 80% of people, that's it. So this is my time, my energy, my brain, and my thoughts going out with no return. So it is only since I read your book, and I mean this, like this is true. And I only had the realization this is where it's come from the other day. I got reached out to by a guy last week, met him at an event. He's changing premises.
Mm.
He's got a fantastic established business, but he's changing premises and he wanted to know if I could help with like sponsorship for the events. I said, yeah, absolutely. It sounds to me like a discovery session. And I named it on the spot. Right?
Awesome. Love that.
And I said, that is chargeable. But afterwards, I'll do you a nice overview proposal of how we can work together going forward. He said, how much? And I said, well, it'd be £395. He said, okay, can you meet on Wednesday?
Amazing.
I nearly dropped my phone. Oh my goodness, I've been doing this for free for a year. And then a couple of days later, the same thing with a lady who's piloting some fantastic, fantastic app in the area. She wanted the same, ideas, connection, network. I said exactly the same thing, 100% agreed. And both of these people paid before I even arrived for the meeting.
Amazing.
Know
So
your
what's the
worth.
real juice in that learning?
Well, know your worth and put
Mm.
it out there because if they're willing to pay for the meeting, they're also probably willing to pay for the proposal items afterwards.
I mean, I love that. I think it then builds commitment on your side.
Yes.
You go in there massively prepared and
Yes.
you give it your all.
Yeah. And then they look at what you propose and they've already invested in you and
Mm.
your time financially. And I think that locks something, it puts something in place. Who knew?
Oh, it's hugely confidence building, isn't it?
It's brilliant. But
Mm.
on this entrepreneurial journey, where we are actually learning on the go, making it up as we go, the swan. I think I'm a pigeon some days. I'm more a cricket, one of them ones with the funny feet. And it carries on, but you learn and you grow, and then you just don't give
Mm.
up. That's the other thing that I feel is you're not going to get it right all the time. But you don't give up. Get you the right people around you, people, voices like yours, sharing on these platforms, doing these amazing things like writing these books. Don't give up. Invest in yourself and crack on
Mm.
through.
Totally. I went to an event with Trini the other day,
Okay, nice.
and she's an amazing woman.
Yeah.
And what I loved about the discussion with her is that she was just so open and honest with her story. And in her story, she talks about a moment where she was literally looking like she was going to lose it all.
Yeah.
So she just started building the business. She had started raising through friends and family, so raising capital, but it wasn't quite enough to keep her going. She ended up selling like this massive amount of clothing. And I just love that story because you look at Trini and you look at what she's
Yes.
achieved and you just think your journey must have been so easy for you. You
Yes.
were a model, you were on TV, you had it all. But honestly, even the biggest names that you see, they have moments or chapters in their life where things are really hard.
Hmm.
And a lot of that is A, having people around you that have been through it and been resilient enough to keep on going. And then the other piece is just reframing that
Mm.
and trying not to get too sucked into all of the negative self talk around how you're not good enough or you haven't got the right skill set or you need to go and do another course,
Yeah.
whatever that is that's going to hold you back even further, to then reframing it to think, okay, what am I learning in this moment? How is it redirecting me to think differently? And what am I going to do differently as a result of this now?
Ah, now see, that's key. That's
Mm,
brilliant. It's collecting all of that knowledge in the hard times and the good. And trust me, they're both balanced, aren't they, in business and in life? And then deciding how you're going to pivot and move, change with it. That's the key. I love that so much.
totally.
Yeah.
And that's why I love being around you, Lucy, because I think you're so positive and you just bring this wonderful energy with you. And it's being around those people who, whilst there's still a lot going on and everyone's got challenges and all this stuff that you don't see, I
Yes.
think it's so important to have those people that lift you up and can give you a bit of a shining light, because there are definitely dark moments
Yeah.
where you're crying on the kitchen floor,
Mm-hmm.
not really sure. I mean, there have been times where I've been like, I have no idea how I'm going to make this work. But then you just get around the right people and it pushes you through to the next bit. And there's going to be challenges in that too, right? But then you get, the more you do the resilience and you get through those challenges, the more confidence you build till you
Yes.
get the momentum
Yep.
that gets you through the starting blocks of building a business, which it can be really, really hard.
Yeah. I don't think you know, do you, until you're in the depths of it. And I think that most businesses close after 12 months,
Yes.
um, and most don't make money for 24. So hopefully I'll make some cash in another 12 months. That'd be
Oh, you
good, wouldn't
definitely
it?
will.
Oh,
There's
I'm going
no
to make
doubt.
so much of it. I'm going to have it all around. It's going to be so piled up everywhere.
In that, I think there's a story to be told, because there are so many irresponsible people, I think, on social media that talk about the 6 million in 6 months, or,
Oh,
and those stories I'm sure do exist, but they are incredibly rare.
yes.
And it is unusual, and they've done something spectacular if you get to that point. The lion's share of people that I speak to, even the big names, have gone through these really tough, dark times.
Yeah.
And it's not for the faint-hearted,
Mm.
this wonderful world that we
Yes.
live in. It's not all lying around on a beach in Bali, building something. It is a lot of work. It is grit, determination, but I think it's massively rewarding on the
Yeah.
other side.
And taking risks. I think you
Mm.
also have to have that kind of part to your personality, that you can take a risk and take a bet on you, if you like. So I've had lovely conversations this week. Alex, who was on the podcast, Alex Bailey, she's just bringing out a book about leadership culture in the workplace. Very interesting, all human centered, lovely. And she sent me a message, and I think the words were, Lucy, I can feel like you're on the edge of something here,
Love that.
the verge of something. She can see it. And then my lovely friend Annie messaged me last night. She had a dream last night. I was the next Mel Robbins, apparently. My
I love
lovely Annie.
that.
I said, I'll take that. And
Yes.
having these kind of people around you who can see you, who know you and value you and care for you, but are encouraging you and putting out into the world, I believe in you. Something my
Mm,
sister said, I believe in you. Wow, you need to believe in yourself. I can't tell you how good it feels to have other voices of those I respect and admire saying the same.
totally.
So, and that room, this is the other part that we've not spoken about. You've spoken a lot about being in the right room and in the right spaces, and I
Mm.
firmly believe this as well. And there's this good girl tax. Perhaps you could just talk around that because it's so interesting, Sarah.
The good girl tax is so real. I
Mm,
think that many of us girls grow up living and breathing this world where we're told that we have to conform. We have to live by the rules. We have to be the good girl. And that's how you succeed. And for me, it played itself out by going to university, and then I went back to university and then qualified again. I got a secondary degree, and then it was get a great job and then climb the ladder. And at every single stage, don't rock the boat.
mm.
Don't be too different.
Don't be too outspoken.
Yeah.
Mm.
So there's all these contradictory messages within that that are fulfilling the good girl tax. And actually, once you realize you can break through that and actually create your own rules that
Mm.
are then going to pull everyone else through too that have been suffering from some of that good girl tax, I think that can be absolutely liberating. And realizing actually that a lot of the rules that are set for us are complete and absolute nonsense.
Yes.
And they're set so that you conform and that you fit into someone else's paradigm. And it's really depressing. I spent quite a long time in that zone. And it, I think that's the thing that probably broke me when I realized I've just been in the wrong place.
Mm.
And this is why I feel like I feel right now. It's time to build my own thing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like, I remember the first few months of leaving corporate, this one particular, I went to a marketing event, Expert Empires, up in Wembley, and I booked it and then just went within a couple of days. And as I was getting the tube there, I felt really naughty.
Did you? I love it.
I
I
was
love
like,
it.
my God, it's the middle of the day. I'm going to do something which I'm really going to enjoy. There's all these great speakers there. And I haven't asked anybody.
Mm.
I haven't had to have my cost center signed off on this. I haven't had to like put it into a system. I've just booked it and I've gone. And I was
Right.
like, oh, wow, okay. So it was the most weird thing. For, I think a lot of people that could be so normal, but for me,
You were conditioned around
yes,
anything like that. That's real conditioning, isn't
totally.
it?
For months, I'd have this. Oh, I'm supposed to be in a meeting or feeling guilty that
Yeah.
I'd be having a coffee in the sun on my own and just having a moment, just
Wow.
thinking I should be doing something right now.
That's years of that
Years of
though,
it.
isn't it? And that is years. So it's habitual as well as that conditioning. How interesting. How long did it take for you to like put that down and start sitting with that in this new life?
I would say it was a good 9 months to a year.
Okay.
And I've talked to other people who've done crazy roles like this, and they say a very similar story because the days in those roles, you're literally back to back meetings, and then your day ends, you put the kids to bed or whatever, and then it starts again. So you'll be like logged in till 9:30, 10 o'clock, doing emails on someone
So
else's agenda, clearing things down, meeting deadlines, all this kind of good stuff, because there's just not enough time in the day to get through everything.
so you're
It's just like,
constantly on it then, aren't you, all the time? Well, much like being an entrepreneur, I suppose, in that sense. And would you say that in midlife, it feels easier to have this reawakening?
I don't think it is easier.
Mm.
And that this is why I think the book particularly is so fundamentally important for people, but particularly girls in their 20s,
Yes.
because building solid foundations financially is the thing that gives you the confidence to live the life that you want to live later in life. If you're constantly on the hamster wheel, constantly thinking paycheck to paycheck, you're going to really struggle to live that life that you really want to lead in your midlife. And the chapter changes. I think you look up in your 20s, just, we all have a vision of what life will look like, but it's just a bigger version of where you are at that point.
Yes.
But then for me, life really changed in a really positive way after I had the girls. And it forces you to think very differently about your life, your values, the purpose, and the why you want to live the life that
The
you want to
why
lead.
is so important. It's got to be about the why. Yes.
It so is. And if you haven't built those financial foundations, it will become much harder to do later in life. Now, it's not impossible,
Hmm.
but build the financial foundations in your 20s and liberate yourself from a lot of the pain that can come if you're struggling with your finances. And so, if you're trying to do something that is different, so if you want to leave corporate as an example and go and set up your own thing, midlife, you come with much greater skill sets,
Yes.
probably more confidence, much more, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to say what I'm going to say anyway.
100%. Yeah.
And, if you don't like it, then that's okay too.
Hmm.
So there's a bit of a fuck it
Hmm.
attitude that goes into there. But that's all great if you then have the financial security behind it.
Wow. I mean, that
If you're
is the
trying to do
dream.
both,
Yeah.
it's really, really tough because you've got kids in school, you've got a mortgage to pay, you've got mouths to feed, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's real.
You've got a lot of things there holding you back, even though you've got, like you say, that life experience and that, oh, sling it. I know who I am and what I bring to the table is what I
Mm.
say. I think I said it on a date recently. I know what I bring to the table. I'm happy to eat alone. And then off I went.
Took my
Yeah.
book with me.
Yeah. Ta-ra. Thanks. But yes, having all of that, but not having that stable base. And
Mm,
actually, I think the first stage with, I mean, certainly what you introduce and what you show here in your beautiful book is that understanding of your finances. That's just the first stage,
mhm.
understanding it all, getting away from the shame and the stories, and actually being able to, if you've got children, like I've got teenagers now, if I can change the narratives that I've been passed down, that they were passed down in the years before, I'm not only fixing it for myself, I'm fixing this for my young people going forward and their children thereafter. So it's so important. It's absolutely important. It's key.
Oh, it so is. We've built in really strong habits around this from a very early age. So they have the ability to do things around the house, to earn money, and we pay them in cash so that they can actually physically see and feel it, which I think is very important at that
Yeah.
age. And we have an investment account. So I'm not amazing at doing this routinely, but we periodically will sit down because she has a regular savings into an investment account. And then we just have a play around. So there are some things in there which she's starting to get the understanding of how an ETF works, as an example, or an index fund, so that she knows she can always go and invest in the S&P 500, as an example, and
Okay.
you get a rough yield of around 12%. Now, you like lucky to get over 2 basis points in your savings account. So, where would you rather save? A
Mm,
savings account or a really simple investment fund?
mm.
And the mechanics of it are no different. Really, you just have to think a bit bigger around what you do with that money. And then she can see it growing in her account. Now, if we are really disciplined in doing this, she will have a much more secure foundation, which she can then pick up herself and really, when she starts earning, invest into those accounts. And she can do that in a methodical way, which sets her up to a very different 30s to, we had no education around this when we were
No, and
in
to
our
have that
20s.
and to have experience of it. You're not just doing it on her behalf. Reminds me a little bit of sorry, I got a frog in my throat. Is it Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yes.
It is, isn't it? Now I've got a
Hmm.
copy again. I've got a copy at home. I think I skim read some of it years ago. That actually it's the children and it's the generations that are being educated in how to use money smartly
Hmm.
are the ones that are going to succeed and become millionaires and going to be, very successful in their own rights. It's a wonderful gift to give to people.
Well, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think, is very good in terms of changing your mindset because we really conditioned. The good girl is conditioned to get a degree, to go to university, and to get a good job,
Yes.
climb the ladder. Rich Dad Poor Dad encourages you to think in a way to stop trading your time for money
Mm,
and start thinking about how you can invest your money so that effectively it's building, making babies of its own, and without you having to do too much in there, it will keep ticking along. But in the entrepreneurial sense, it's how do I build something where I don't have to trade my time for money?
mm,
That's such a critical theory. And if you've conditioned to, trade time for money as you are in corporate, you're
yes.
always going to have a glass ceiling.
Yes. And this is so interesting. I'm so pleased you've just said that because like I felt a little flutter in my heart. This is the conversation I was having last week with my beautiful friends. And they're working out my day rate and they're working out how much my earning capacity is per month, per year. And I get the framework. It's not something I've ever done. Don't do that. That doesn't hit your day rate. That's a good one for your day rate. Break that one down. I was kind of there scratching my head at the same time thinking, well, no, I can make loads more money than that.
Mm.
because it's not my time, it's my brain. It's
Totally.
what I can create. And that's really interesting. Or I'll have to pull it off the dusty shelf at home. That Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'll have to get them out in unison, the two books together, won't I? I know time's running out, Sarah. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring to this beautiful space that we're holding today? I could talk to you all day long. I really could.
Oh, I loved our time today. I'd really encourage you to pick up a copy of More Money, More Life because it will really change your thinking around money.
Mm,
It will help you move away from guilt and shame around money. Maybe we're not in the right in the space that you want to be right now with your finances, but it is all fixable when you know the right tools, you have the awareness around the psychology of money and your family lineage, and pulling that together, everything is completely fixable.
yes, it is.
And I think that for me is what I'd love you to take away today is go and pick up a copy of More Money, More Life. Go and join it as one of the events. Waterstones have been an incredible partner for me on this journey. So come and see us at one of the events at Waterstones, and just reach out to Lucy because she's an incredible woman and she's building something that is so impactful in the world. So thank you very much, Lucy.
Bless you. Thank you. So, you've been listening today to the Bright I Am podcast. I'm Lucy Black. We were here with a sensational author, banker, extraordinaire, wonderful woman, Sarah Bennett-Nash. It's been such a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.